On the other side of the note, I wanted to talk. Oh, so Biden and McCarthy on the debt ceiling. So to move along here. So they did today. Actually, they came up with, I guess, a resolution. They're going to hopefully pass it Wednesday. We'll see. Because here's the deal. You can disagree with it, and to a degree, both sides disagree with it. But here's sort of the political concept that I've gotten from this, and if I'm wrong, please correct me. But this is my understanding: is Biden's thought process on this, and at least their strategy was, look, we're going to have to go to this sort of budget negotiation anyway next year, right? So instead of him just arguing the debt ceiling, he said, let's just argue a 2-year budget negotiation now. And what he gave up was some pretty significant things, but nothing that he probably wouldn't have had to give up anyway. So they're going to add work requirements to food stamps and TANF and stuff like that for people. That's a bad idea, but from my understanding, that was probably going to happen next year anyway. However, they did figure out the cap was whatever, $4 trillion, which is pretty much what Biden wanted anyway. They did cap the military spending a little bit. You can only increase 1% a year starting next year under this new, but it's only for 2 years, right? So they did cap some of that. So at the end of the deal, the Republicans didn't really get anything out of this except for work requirements. They didn't get any cuts to anything, right? So a lot of the MAGA Republicans, right, are really pissed about this deal. And they don't have a big lead in the House right now. So if 5 or 6 of them break rank, they might not have a deal. And then it's kind of be on Biden to do something. And I don't know what he's going to do, but I would say now's the time to pull out the 14th Amendment and just be a dick. But we'll see what he does. I don't know what he's going to do, but we'll see. But here's the deal on the work requirements, which is so stupid. They did this in Arkansas, which is still Sarah Huckabee Sanders' state. And they did this years ago, and they'd studied it, and it didn't work out. And I'm going to show a little clip here, and then we'll go into a little bit more detail here in a second. But let me show you this, because this was 4 years ago.
New numbers just released by the Department of Human Services show of the 60,000 Arkansas Works recipients, 43,000 have met the new work requirement.
Very significantly, more than 1,000 Arkansas Works enrollees have found employment.
Governor Asa Hutchinson referring to those who signed up for job training through the Department of Workforce Services. While the governor calls that a success, he isn't exactly celebrating. In the last 3 months, more than 4,300 Arkansans failed to either report an exemption or comply. That means they will lose health care coverage for the rest of the year.
I don't like that number. I would like to see the number of those that are going into workforce services and moving to employment higher than the 1,000 plus that we recited.
One of the biggest critics of the policy, Hutchinson's Democratic opponent, Jared Henderson.
This is hurting patients. It can hurt their families.
Henderson held his own press conference just before the announcement. His main concern is how the program has been implemented, specifically the online reporting system, which he argues impacts Arkansans without access to a computer.
In my mind, it calls into question the motives of this policy. It's either stunningly bad, poorly designed, or it's meant to kick people off. One of those.
And he's right. That's what it was meant to do. There was nothing wrong. I mean, that was. I mean, he was right. And so the whole. I think Asa Hutchinson, who was the former governor, him laughing about 1,000 people losing their health care, and he's sitting up there smiling. Well, I don't like that number. Ha ha ha. Those 1,000 people, most of them are going to be older people that don't have access to a computer, or poor people that don't have access to a computer. Because to sign in and check in your work program status, you got to be able to log into a computer.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The other thing about that is this. So they add the work requirements under the Biden thing, I think it's under 54, you have to show work requirements, right? And that's kind of their way around that. But the other thing about it is here's the deal. In order to have people prove that they've met the work requirements, what does that take? That takes you having an online system. That takes you having offices and staff that can monitor that. So now you're spending all this money. And what did we find out? Not that many people didn't qualify. They just couldn't get onto the system. And so here was an article that they did later on. This is Health Affairs, but they kind of showed this a little bit. So this is just the abstract. So in June 2018, Arkansas became the first U.S. state to implement work requirements in Medicaid, which is what we're talking about, requiring adults aged 30 to 49 to work 20 hours a week, participate community engagement, blah, 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 blah. By April 19, when the federal judge put the policy on hold, 18,000 adults had lost coverage. 18,000 people lost coverage because of this new policy. We analyzed the policy's effects before and after these events using a telephone survey performed in 2019 of 2,706 low-income adults in Arkansas and 3 control states that they compared with data from 2016 to 2018. We have 4 main findings. First, most of the Medicaid coverage losses in 2018 were reversed in 2019 after a court order. So the court had to reverse this stupid bill. All right. Second, work requirements did not increase employment over 18 months of follow-up. So it didn't increase employment, which was its goal. Third, people in Arkansas ages 30 to 49 who had lost Medicaid in the prior year experienced adverse consequences. 50% reported serious problems paying off medical debt. 56% delayed care because of cost, which means people are getting sicker or dying because they can't afford to go to the hospital. And 64% delayed taking medications because of cost. These rates were significantly higher than among Arkansans who remained in Medicaid all year. Finally, awareness of the work requirements remained poor, with more than 70% of Arkansans unsure whether the policy was in effect. So people didn't even know that they had to do this. So now they're adding another thing. You got to pay for a lot of advertising to make sure the population knows they got to do this. That means TV, billboards, constant on all channels.
Yeah.
Yep. Not just on the local channels. You have to put it on cable. Millions and millions and millions of dollars in advertising to make sure this works. I mean, this is so stupid. I mean, I get Biden agreed to it, but it's such a stupid thing to agree to. I mean, he didn't have a lot of other choices, but that's just what it is. So, anyway, that